The Toronto real estate market was a complete roller coaster in 2022. Let's take a look at the year in review and break down what we went through. Let's start with the beginning of the year. Changing the calendar from 2021 to 2022 was like flipping some kind of switch, and prices started taking off like a rocket ship. By the end of January, the average Toronto home price was $1,072,000. And by the end of April, that average grew to $1.24 million, an increase of 15.6% over those 4 months, or about 4% per month. If that pace continued, then that meant that we would have seen prices rise nearly 50% by the end of the year. So that's what I mean about rocketing prices. Maybe those numbers don't mean much to you, so I'll put it this way. If you didn't view a home within 36 hours of it coming on the market, it was sold for way more than you thought it would fetch. It was, in my 8-year career, the frothiest market I have ever seen, and that's saying a lot comparing to what happened in early 2017. But something interesting happened in early March that was the beginning of a big shift in the market. For the first time since March 2020, the Bank of Canada changed their interest rate policy by raising rates 0.25 percentage point. And then again in April, but this time by 0.5 percentage point. Then again in June, again in July, but this time a full percentage point. Again in September, raised again in October, and finally raised one more time in December. These 7 consecutive increases brought the Bank of Canada's policy rate from 0.25% to 4.25% in a matter of about 9 months, all in an effort to combat inflation. Now, these rising rates meant that mortgages started becoming more expensive, and that introduced some downward pressure on real estate prices in Toronto. The first month-to-month decrease we saw was from April to May, when the average Toronto sold price went down by about $10,000. Not a substantial decrease by any means, but it ended up being the start of a trend. We saw prices decline for the next 3 consecutive months, and if you just use the average prices of April and July, not a great comparison, but we'll do it anyway, we saw an average price decline of about 18%. Meanwhile, over that same period, we saw sales numbers fall while new listings and total active inventory rise dramatically, peaking between May and June. Things really started becoming a neutral and then a buyer's market until sellers started saying, "No thank you, not in this market, I'll hold off on selling." It was this seller sentiment that caused the number of new listings to drop from the May peak through into August, which is normal for the market seasonality, but what was interesting was that there was roughly 23 to 24% fewer new listings in September than there were in September 2021 or 2019, skipping 2020 for obvious reasons. This continuous drop in new listings led to price increases from July into October. The increases were relatively small, but it put an end to what felt like a free-falling market. By October and November, the total inventory levels seemed pretty robust compared to 2021, and yet buyers felt, rightfully so, that there was nothing good out there to buy. This caused good properties coming to market to receive a lot of attention from buyers, and sellers fared pretty well given the overall market circumstances hanging overhead beginning from the first interest rate increase in March. And while at the time of making this video, the official numbers aren't out yet, I can assure you that December was an exceptionally quiet month with huge drops in sales and new listings. So that was the 2022 Toronto real estate market in a nutshell, which leads into my next video, which will be my predictions for 2023. I'm Jamie Harnish, Toronto Real Estate Navigator with Bosley Real Estate. I want to thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you watching. I would be thrilled if you would like this video, if you would subscribe to my channel so you make sure that you don't miss any upcoming educational real estate videos.